You feel tired, but it's not just physical, like the exhaustion after a long, demanding day. Do you recognize this feeling? That ever-present sense of something missing, like you're walking toward a horizon that keeps shifting further away. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most unflinchingly honest philosophers in history, didn't shy away from this truth. In The World as Will and Representation, he dismantles the illusion that we were born to be happy. According to Schopenhauer, everything that exists, you, me, animals, nature, the cosmos, is merely the outward expression of a blind, irrational, insatiable force he called the will. This will is the engine behind all existence, but it has no purpose, no peace, no end goal. It only wants. It craves endlessly. And the more it craves, the more it drags us into an unending loop of frustration, boredom, and suffering. We are this will, and because of that, our quest for lasting happiness is doomed from the outset. Whatever we desire never truly satisfies, and what does satisfy fades quickly. The fatigue you feel is the battle scar of this inner war. It's not that you're living your life wrong. The truth, as Schopenhauer saw it, is harsher. The very structure of life is a trap of suffering, and the more we try to escape by working more, buying more, seeking more pleasure, more status, more connection, the deeper we fall, the more entangled we become. This is the root of your spiritual exhaustion. It's not rare, many feel it, but few can name it. In this video, I want to offer you more than just understanding. I want to show you that this emptiness, this ache, has an explanation and, more importantly, a way out. Not a quick fix, not a comfortable or popular escape, but a real one. One that requires courage, the courage to see reality not as we wish it to be, but as it is.
Only those willing to confront the harshest truths can ever begin to free themselves from them. So tell me, are you ready to hear the truth that most people spend their lives trying to avoid? Schopenhauer believed the essence of the world is not reason, but will, a blind, irrational force driving everything that exists. From natural phenomena to our most complex human choices, all are mere expressions of this will. We are not rational beings who happen to desire. We are desire itself that by chance evolved the capacity for reason. And this realization changes everything. There is no why, no for what. The will doesn't want something, it wants to want. Wanting is the default state of existence. Think about it. You're never truly satisfied. You desire something, you chase it, you achieve it, and then almost without noticing, what once felt essential becomes trivial. Soon, a new longing appears, and the cycle begins again. This is the trap. Each day you wake up moved by impulses you don't fully understand. The urge to be loved, respected, accepted, admired. The will to change, to grow, to matter, to escape. You run, you struggle, you suffer. And behind it all, there's just the same relentless force, an unconscious will pulling you like a starving animal. It doesn't care about your peace, it doesn't care about your happiness, it simply wants you to keep desiring. This shows up everywhere, in a culture that bombards you with promises of fulfillment, in consumption that never satisfies, in social media that fuels endless comparison, in emotional spectacle that turns your inner life into performance. We are caught inside a machine that multiplies desire, and the more we desire, the more enslaved we become. Haven't you felt it? That restless mind always projecting into the future? That belief that relief is coming after the next goal, the next purchase, the next approval. But when it arrives, it's already fading, it's already in the past. Schopenhauer throws a brutal truth in our faces. Suffering isn't accidental. It's not just a consequence of poverty, illness, or broken relationships. It's structural. It arises from the mere fact that we exist, or more precisely, that we are the living embodiment of a will that never finds rest.
This is the root of your spiritual exhaustion. You're not just trying to live. You're being devoured by a desire with no end. And the more you try to fill that inner void with pleasure, achievement, distraction, the deeper it becomes. So, if this will is the source of our suffering, can we escape it? Can we break the cycle of pain, fleeting pleasure, and relentless boredom? That is the question. And that is where we'll go next, into the cruel pendulum that swings between suffering and emptiness, and how it traps the human soul. If this speaks to something inside you, consider subscribing, not for the algorithm, but for the journey we're about to take. Thank you for being here. If you've been taught that the purpose of life is to pursue happiness, prepare yourself, because Schopenhauer would call that belief a grand illusion. According to him, human existence is caught in a relentless and unforgiving cycle, the pendulum of pain and boredom. We swing endlessly between the suffering of unfulfilled desire and the hollow void that follows once that desire is satisfied. Think about your own life. When you deeply want something, a job, a relationship, a milestone, it consumes you. You suffer in the waiting, in the absence, in the craving for something you believe will complete you. Then, when you finally get it, there's a brief rush, pleasure, maybe even euphoria, but it fades quickly. The achievement becomes routine, the joy loses its color, and in its place comes boredom, restlessness, and a new desire. And so the cycle restarts. Pain, brief pleasure, emptiness, pain again. This, Schopenhauer says, is the rhythm of existence. It is cruel, yes, but it is real. Just look around. People fight hard for what they think they want, but when they get it, it rarely brings lasting fulfillment. The new car loses its scent. The dream vacation becomes a photo in a feed. The relationship becomes routine. And then boredom creeps in, a state Schopenhauer believed to be as destructive as pain, because it reveals the hollowness behind our striving. When all your dreams are achieved, what's left is not peace, but silence, a silence that unnerves the soul. And the most merciless truth? The pendulum never stops. Even when you're tired, even when you no longer care. The will, this irrational force at the root of existence, keeps pushing you. It makes you want again, chase again, crave again, and you obey, because everything in your environment tells you that happiness lies in the next thing, the next goal, the next experience, the next version of yourself. But that next step, it leads only to the next emptiness. That's why so many people feel deeply restless even when they seem to have everything. Because the agony of not having what you want is sharp, but the despair of getting it and still feeling unfulfilled, that's devastating. It exposes the illusion, the lie, the absence of meaning. Schopenhauer didn't write to comfort. He wrote to wake us up. And waking up hurts. It forces us to see life without the filters of naive optimism. It forces us to accept that maybe the suffering we experience isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system. It's not a mistake in life's design, but a reflection of life's very nature. So you may be wondering, is this endless cycle inevitable? Is life doomed to swing between pain and boredom? Why are we so vulnerable to this movement? The answer lies deeper, in something modern life rarely acknowledges, the silent war we each fight within ourselves. In the next section, we'll explore the root of this existential fatigue and how today's culture, instead of helping us heal, only deepens the wound. Because maybe it's not just that we're tired. Maybe we're spiritually unraveling. No one sees it, but Schopenhauer did. He described this inner war with chilling clarity. The will,
This blind, insatiable force within us has never been more relentlessly fed than it is today. Modern society functions as a factory of desire. We are bombarded with promises of transformation and happiness. A new diet to reshape your body, a course to change your life, an app to boost your productivity, a product to make you more desirable. And caught in the middle of this noise is you, trying to fill a growing void, chasing an ideal that always stays out of reach. You say, "I'm tired," like a daily mantra, but it's not your body that's exhausted. It's your soul. This fatigue is not physical, it's existential. We are being silently mutilated from within. The culture of productivity teaches us that resting is laziness, slowing down is weakness, and stopping is failure. So, we push forward, harming ourselves in pursuit of a peace that never comes. Even when we reach our goals, the restlessness returns, because the will is never satisfied. It is never at peace. Schopenhauer understood this. He wrote that the will manifests as a structural lack. We don't truly seek specific things. We're trying to fill a nameless void. That's why, despite comfort, success, relationships, and achievement, so many feel suffocated by the sense that something is still missing. And what's missing
Can't be bought. It can't be reached. What's missing is the pause, the silence, the end of wanting. But that end never comes. Here lies the cruelest truth. The more aware we become of this war inside us, the more powerless we feel. We know we're hurting ourselves, yet we can't stop. The system, routine, and expectations of others keep dragging us back to the battlefield. We are soldiers in a war no one declared, but everyone fights. You feel it, don't you? That unexplained exhaustion, that restlessness that lingers even when life seems fine. That subtle sadness that arises without cause. That is the mark of the will. It's the silent war between what you crave and what will never be enough. But Schopenhauer didn't stop at maiming the pain. He exposed the lie beneath it, the most seductive illusion of all. The belief that happiness is just one step away. We've been conditioned since childhood to believe in a simple formula. Work hard, make the right choices, be a good person, and happiness will follow. It sounds fair. It feels hopeful. But Schopenhauer was unflinching. Hope is the most elegant trap. Hope keeps us moving, yes, but always in circles. It ties your peace to the future, to something you don't yet have. And once you do have it, it vanishes. The moment of joy fades, and the will begins again. We cling to the expectation that things will improve, that life will eventually work out and happiness will arrive. But in doing so, we live in a quiet denial of the present moment. We hope the pain will fade, that the emptiness will be filled, that peace is just around the corner. And yet, it never quite arrives. Why? Because the will, that blind, relentless force within us, does not seek fulfillment. It does not desire peace. It desires to desire. This is the brutal irony Schopenhauer exposes. Happiness, far from being a lasting state, is merely a brief pause between two forms of suffering. When we attain something we longed for, a goal, a possession, a relationship, we feel a fleeting satisfaction. But soon the sensation fades. A new desire emerges, followed by a new restlessness, and with it, more suffering. Hope, then, isn't the remedy. It's the mechanism that keeps the cycle alive. It keeps us believing, striving, exhausting ourselves. Schopenhauer calls it what it truly is, a tool of self-deception. Hope blinds us to the void beneath our pursuits and turns us into willing captives.
Hope and suffering are, as he describes, Siamese twins. Hope drags suffering forward. It delays our ability to see reality as it is, chaotic, incomplete, unsatisfying. And modern society, with its industries of happiness and productivity, thrives on this ignorance. That's why there are endless self-help books, motivational speakers, and apps promising transformation in a matter of days. You've likely felt the guilt for being tired, unmotivated, sad, unfulfilled, as if not being happy were a personal failure. But it's not. Unhappiness isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system. It is baked into the metaphysical structure of existence itself. And fighting it with more desire, more goals, more dreams, more hope is like trying to put out a fire by feeding it. But here's where things shift. When you finally see through the illusion, when you stop chasing the mirage, something inside you settles. You begin to observe instead of react. You notice how suffering operates. And then the essential question emerges. If happiness is an illusion, if hope is a trap, what's left? Do we surrender to despair? Do we give up? Schopenhauer offers a radical and freeing response. Not resignation, not cynicism, but detachment. Not as weakness, but as wisdom. The answer isn't in conquering the world, but in stepping away from the compulsion to want. The next step is the most difficult and most liberating of all. In the next section, we'll explore what this means, why true freedom begins not when you get everything you want, but when you stop needing to want at all. At this point, you might be asking yourself, if desire leads to suffering, then what remains? Should I live numb, indifferent, resigned to meaninglessness? Is nihilism the only path left? Schopenhauer offers a different answer, one that's neither passive nor hopeless, but deeply radical. He doesn't preach surrender or blind pessimism. What he proposes is a quiet revolution, the denial of the will. In a world that constantly screams, "Want more," Schopenhauer calmly replies, "No, want less." This denial isn't apathy, it's not disengagement, it's the deliberate act of stepping out of the endless cycle, refusing to let your identity be chained to your desires. It's the recognition that the very structure of wanting is what keeps you trapped in restlessness, disappointment, and pain. Modern culture teaches us to worship productivity, accumulation, ambition. To want is to be alive, they say. But in truth, to be consumed by wanting is to live in constant tension, forever reaching, never arriving. To deny the will is to detach from this compulsion, to recognize the game and quietly refuse to play by its rules. It echoes through Buddhist philosophy, Eastern mysticism, even the spiritual insights of Christian asceticism. The wisest traditions don't teach us to chase happiness. They teach us to release the need for it. Because when you stop needing something from life, life stops tormenting you. This isn't an easy path. It requires inner stillness in a world that thrives on noise. It demands observation over impulse, silence over distraction. But in that space, you discover something deeper than fleeting pleasure, something Schopenhauer described as the only true form of peace, the quieting of the will. It's in these moments where you are no longer chasing, no longer comparing, no longer needing, that true freedom flickers into view. Not the freedom to have everything, but the freedom to not need anything. And perhaps that's what we've been searching for all along. Of course, this path is not a prescription. It's not something to be imposed or followed like a formula. It's an invitation to reflect, to observe, to question everything you were taught about success, happiness, and fulfillment. You've likely felt this contradiction, achieving more, owning more, doing more, yet feeling emptier than ever. That quiet ache that something is missing, even when nothing is obviously wrong. That ache is the will. Not because it has failed, but because it has succeeded. And now it demands a new object, again and again. So the question becomes, how long will you keep feeding it? In the next part, we'll explore how art, philosophy, and aesthetic experience can momentarily silence the will, and why, for Schopenhauer, beauty was not just decoration, but salvation. You believed that once you had enough, success, recognition, security, everything would finally fall into place. But even after achieving your goals, something remained, a persistent emptiness. The exhaustion didn't vanish, the relief never fully arrived. Schopenhauer pulls back the curtain and reveals what most are afraid to admit. Suffering is not an error in the system. It is the system, so long as we are bound to the endless cycle of will and desire. But within this bleak diagnosis, he also offers a liberating insight. The cycle can be interrupted, not by conquering more, but by consciously stepping away, by learning to want less, by wishing quietly, by savoring beauty without trying to own it, by embracing fleeting moments without demanding they last forever. For Schopenhauer, true wisdom lies not in accumulation of titles, possessions, or experiences, but in release. Not in feeding scarcity, but in recognizing its illusion. It's the serenity that comes from observing life the way one contemplates art, in silence, without the compulsion to possess or change it. Just being present with what is.
Perhaps you're not exhausted because you failed, but because you followed every rule the world handed you. You did everything you were supposed to do, and still, it wasn't enough. But that realization isn't the end, it's the beginning. It marks the start of a new way of existing, one that is lighter, more present, more awake. A path not defined by what you can acquire, but by what you can let go. Not in withdrawal from life, but in deeper connection to it, without the grasping. So I ask you, what part of this message struck you the most? What made you pause, reflect, or feel something shift inside you? Leave a comment below. I read each one and respond when I can. And if you know someone who feels lost, worn down, quietly struggling with a weariness they can't maim, share this with them. Sometimes all it takes is a single idea, a single moment of clarity to begin the journey back to oneself. And remember, this isn't the end of the conversation. The next video continues this path you've begun. Deeper reflections, sharper insights, and a new way of looking at the world. Watch it, reflect, and above all, keep searching. But this time, with your eyes turned inward.